Hi, my name is Darren Bartlett, and I love discussing African affairs, especially if it's current affairs. Now, news broke on Monday that Paul Biya is going to seek for a re-election for the eighth time in Cameroon. He's 92 years of age, and that is something that many people are surprised about. That he's an old man, but he doesn't seem to want to leave office or give an opportunity to someone else, whether in his party or the opposition direction. So 40 years, coming to 50 years being in power is something that many people have criticized. And you see, Paul Biya has been the president, but most of the times he's actually out of the country. And one of the instances that make people kind of think like he is not mentally fit to rule the country is on one occasion he appeared to be addressing a conference of so many people, including journalists, and he didn't seem to be very much aware of where he was, what he's supposed to be doing, or whether people are watching. That clip went too viral and people were not so happy about it, and people thought there should be a certain limit or an age limit where someone can vie for office of the president, because they believe that you need to be in your right mind to make certain decisions, especially if they concern security. But that's not for me to think about or challenge, but that's the voice that I've seen on internet several times, especially when you go to your X or any social media platforms and type in Paul Biya 6 for office for the eighth time. You will see the comments for yourselves. But you see, the last time he sought for office in the seventh term, many people thought maybe that would be his last term. And it didn't go so well because, one, there was a low voter turnout versus the people who were actually registered to go and vote for their presidency. And many people complained that that election was full of corruption, but also vote rigging. Regardless, he got 70% of the vote count and he managed to retain his seat as the president. We managed to go through the seventh term, and here we are. By October, it will be the eighth term in his office. Now, I personally am not shocked. And when I see all these comments of election observers, I see people who are in the civic space, activists saying that President Biya is too old to rule. And I'll tell you something. Most presidents who have come to power either by gun or they were something like the first presidents after independence, or they came to power under circumstances that were not necessarily an election. Most times, they don't leave as soon as you think. You can go to Angola, where President De Santos Eduardo was in power for a very long time, but he chose to leave power after 40 years and decided to pass the baton to his close friend, Lourenco, who has kind of turned things around, especially in the political sphere there. And the relationships between Lourenco and the family of De Santos are not so good. They are actually not good. But that is a story for another time. We'll talk about Angola one day. You can go to President Mugabe, who became the first president of Zimbabwe after independence. He ruled them for a very long time, to a point that he was also just overthrown. You can come to Uganda, where President Museveni, who went to the bush as early as 1978, 79 there. Many people think that President Yoweri Museveni actually went to the bush to fight Obote after the 1980 elections, but he had already started his revolutionary ideas when Idi Amin was in power. You can go and see Paul Kagame, who came to power in 2000. However, he played a very key role to see that Rwanda gets peace in 1994 after the genocide, and he was the vice president. Now, you can imagine he's been there in the background for a long time till today. You can go to Egypt, where Hassan was a president for a very long time. You can go to Sudan, where Omar al-Bashir was in power for a very long time until a revolution happened. People went on the streets and he left. So very many times that the people who are in power for a very long time, the chances for them to actually step down on a voluntary basis are likely not going to be there. And we are. It will come September 12th. Paul Biya may be the president again, re-elected, and also in future he will still be the president in a time. But you see, being in power is not necessarily that they enforce themselves on power, but sometimes the countries have also gone through a couple of things, especially when it comes to the civic space, the wars in those countries. Again, if I mention, the war that happened in Angola, and many times people feel they need to be back on their foot. You can come to Uganda where there's no actually a president who has come to power through an election apart from Milton Obote, but still he was overthrown. Um, there was a coup and he's gone. And because of the many wars that have happened in the country, sometimes the people want that level of stability and security, and they feel like we don't have very many options out there, but maybe this is what we need for us to move forward. You can come to Rwanda where they've had President Kagame for a time, but again, he is the most loved president I have seen in Rwanda. Many times he vies for office, he gets 90% of the vote count. So again, it's not mostly about whether it's just insecure, but sometimes it's the people who want them to be there. So I don't know what you think about Paul Biya being the president of Cameroon again in the eighth time, come 12th October, and it will be a Sunday. That's it from me, Dara.